Welcome back to an all-new This Week in Metal for the 4th of the 8th, 2019. I am Super Metal Brother Max.
And I'm Super my brother Dane.
We are here talking about all the weird and wonderful things that have happened in This Week in Metal. This week's been a doozy, Zane. We've got a few things to take control of, so let's get straight into it, I guess. Let's talk about Vince Neil. He's offering advice to aspiring musicians, and generally the musician talk bestowed from wisdom from someone higher up is don't do it. You know, it's an industry that's quite brutal. There was this wonderful, you have to check it out, the guy from War's Principum S called Andy Gillen did a crowdfunding for America, and he decided, look, what I'm going to do, if I hit my target, I'm going to do a country song. And basically the whole thing is how he's getting screwed out of all this money apart from everyone else. And he's the band doing it, you know. But here we got, the aspiring Vince Neil, he went from plowing your sisters to probably plowing your mother. Or they're looking like this, I think he's plowing his cheeseburgers.
Yeah, pretty badly. It's funny because he is currently doing the some rock and roll fancy camp. And this is where he gave the advice. And what's the advice here?
It's not really about being a rock star, but just a musician. If you're in a band and you really believe in it, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Pretty generic stuff, but then again, the guy basically had probably one of the best songwriters of all time in that guitarist.
Nicky Sticks.
The bass player. Yeah, Mars, yeah. So with him, he actually has the amazing effort and the foresight to know that even if he sings the wrong lyrics, people will come out in droves to see him play.
Yeah, but like how he's at a fancy camp, he's like, get that generic answer. It's like, I want my $200 now. I gave you an answer. Come on, man. And have you seen on the that flyer for that fancy camp, it's still got his picture of him when he's like in the 90s, so he's still thin and looking pretty good. Like, come on, man, you're not that anymore. We all know. We see you. We know what you look like.
I mean, that's the thing, according to this picture, man. I mean, he's making serious money, and look what he's wearing, That's I mean, it's what he's wearing probably in the 80s,
Yeah, sure. If you combine that information with what Kerry King said last year, like, just write good songs, man, that's what you need to know.
That's all you need to be successful.
That's what you need to be
Write good songs and don't let anyone else tell you otherwise, unless they're telling you that your music's bad, and in a sense, don't listen to them so you'll never get any good.
That's all. That's worth $200.
Oh, moving on to our next one. Thrash is not trash, according to this person here. We have a serious talk about, we talked about this, Danny, how Australia is one of the first people to have the heavy metal PhD. And this academic here, or at least someone who's taking it seriously, thinks that we should definitely do it. It's nothing but people trying to find out about the cultures. Metal has a culture. It's had one for since its inception, pretty much. And it's good to see the significant impact it's had on the West and also some Eastern cultures.
Yeah. So the guy, he actually is offering the PhD. He actually wrote an article in this thing called The Conversation, which is pretty much a place where academics write op-ed pieces and articles so you can read them. Yeah. And he's just telling him why he's justifying it, which is all fine. He's doing it from not like, pick your favorite band, write your favorite band. It's not like a year 8 art project. This is like a proper genealogical study on a culture. So metal is a culture. It's real. A lot of people listen to it, and a lot of people have different feelings towards it. And he just wants to understand on the social side why. And it's great for us because a lot of times idiots come and say, oh, it's all Satan worship, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's finally a chance for someone to say, no, it's not.
But what about this? For the rebuttal, heavy metal is the latest bullshit degree. So the complete heavy metal probably answer to having heavy metal kind of hit the mainstream exactly as a resistance against it, mostly from metalheads, which is basically the convention, isn't it?
That's a good point. Yeah.
There is 7 points of interest we have to talk about. So let's talk about it. Firstly, what sorts of lyrics? This is basically outlined in the degree, apparently. These 7 interests is what it's all about for Australia.
Is this the degree? Because there's a degree in Europe somewhere on heavy metal itself.
Yeah.
Is this the PhD one? Or is this the...
Well, this was in regards to the Australian one, because it's actually Australian in much of these sentences. So this is in regards to it. So first up, he argues against these 7 points. What sort of lyrical themes have Australian metal bands adopted? Are these culturally and geographically unique to the content? What is the relationship between the cultural evolution of heavy metal in Australia and colonialism?
All right, sure.
Is heavy metal in Australia largely a white phenomenon? What has been the response to diversity within the scene? How is gender negotiated within the metal scene in Australia? What sort of reputation do metal fans have with Australian context? How is geographically in Australia proximity to other scenes contributed or hindered in a cultural uptake? And what it is about Australian heavy metal music that makes it distinctive? I think, though, out of those questions, a lot of it reads like a social science program where it's mostly like what heavy metal has done and changed and evolved as not only a culture, but also as a sound. But this really doesn't have a lot to do with the sound. It has more about to do with
people.
People.
It's people. That's all it is.
And
It's a study of
and that's a real shame. I would rather see more of it. It's definitely more of a geographical kind of look into it. I mean, we should understand how awesome it is that we're playing Satan's music and enjoying how people all across the world can know it sounds evil and still want to do it anyway. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do, is get a government grant to spread the word of Satan across the world. Do you think these questions are something that you should be utilizing a $15,000 to $20,000 government hex debt, Danny? What do you think?
No, it's not hex debt because you get paid to do PhDs.
Oh, right. There you go.
But you get paid equivalent to like being a doll. It's like 27 grand for like, what, over 4 years? Or,
yeah.
It's not much money. What is it per year? Even so, 30 grand full time is not that much money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but these questions, again, they seem to be a bit too generic for PhDs.
Yeah.
Normally PhDs like very narrowed down. Like, here's a rug, take that one thread out, and that's what you're going to study.
That's
that
right.
one thread. So these are still overarching topics. And look, I hope again more attention. Hopefully, it's good attention to heavy metal. I believe it will be.
Yeah.
There's not too many negatives unless you're on the outside looking in, or in this case, if you're a metal elitist and you just want to stop people from taking away your culture. So stop it.
Well, I like the conversations taken. It really is looking into how this form of music can be spread to connect people from across the whole entire world here. And that's a good way of seeing it. You know, this is all it really is about. You know, we're seeing an influx of different cultures getting into it, and the resistance as well. Where we talked about how the Eastern countries, especially Iran, is taking a no to playing any kind of Western music, and metal happens to be a part of that.
If you want to watch a PhD, you can say PhD study on metal culture and music, then just watch that documentary Metal Headbangers Journey, because that guy there actually is an anthropologist.
Yeah.
What was it? Something Dunn, his name is, whatever.
Yeah.
So he actually did that kind of thing. As it seemed like a PhD research.
It seemed
topic.
like it was,
So,
even though some of the bands put into certain demographics or certain band categories was kind of off at some points, which we'll talk about another time.
Yeah.
But let's move on to a more funnier story, because that wasn't exactly very funny. And the House of Blues. Now, what's more funny about Attempted Murder, Daddy? I don't know what it is.
Attempted murder. What is this?
House of Blues, the firm's decision to book As I Lay Dying. Danny, catch everyone up to speed. What is the controversy surrounding As I Lay Dying?
Yeah, so the lead singer, Timmy there.
Tim Lambesis? Yep.
Lambesis, he'd try to get his wife killed,
Yep.
which is a no-no.
Yeah, he
Don't do
pleaded
that.
guilty to 6 years in jail for paying a San Diego police officer for posting a hitman.
Yeah, he didn't know he
$1,000.
was a police officer, of course.
No, well, that's probably why he was in jail, right? And
He got busted pretty quickly. I don't think he served the whole 6. I think it was at 3 or 4 years.
good
whatever
behavior
it was.
bonds, you know.
all that
He could
stuff.
scream, so like get him out in the world.
Yeah,
I
he was
guess.
pretty beefed as well, so they thought, get him out before he jacks up anymore and starts causing trouble.
So
Who knows?
the people here from the House of Blues have said, as a spokesman talked to Boston Herald on Wednesday, July the 24th, through staff and management may not agree with particular performers appearing at our venues. Ticket buyers have the right to purchase tickets or not to purchase tickets, throwing it back into the fans' hands. Danny, we touched this a little bit before, but where do we sit on this?
Well, our whole theory was, that the guy committed a crime.
Yep.
And he was in prison, which is fair,
That's
based on
right.
the judicial system.
Yep.
He served his time, and therefore he should be rehabilitated and should become an equal member of society again.
That's right.
Unfortunately, that's not how it works with a lot of people who go to prison. They are still seen as you broke the law, that's it. You
That's
stuff
it,
for your life.
exactly. Yeah.
So unfortunately, he's had to sit with that as the rest of his thing. It is a very sensitive. Well, I mean, what he did was terrible, ridiculous.
absolutely.
You
There's
should
no way
just
we can
don't
defend
do
that.
that to someone. Just separate
Yeah,
from them.
exactly.
So that was terrible. But in the end, he served his time. If you think that's not fair, well then take it up with your judicial system.
That's right. Your problems with the politicians, not so much with the lead singers who scream things at you.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't like him anyway. Look, again, it's actually tricky. I don't know if I would stop liking a band if.
Yeah, I think a bigger problem is maybe if you're going to see As I Lay Dying. Maybe that's the bigger problem.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
We reviewed that as Murder, and that wasn't too bad. But nevertheless, he's gone out there and he's talked to his band and to the fans in that very intimate view, and they're all around this like table. It's very
I
interesting.
thought the House of Blues shut down though. I thought when Steel Panther was playing, it was like one of the last gigs.
Oh, well,
So
there you go.
maybe
They've
it's come back.
revamped it. Here we go, dude. Talking about Corey Taylor. Now, he's gone from being somewhat of a villain at times to a hero. And here he saves who knows how many lives. There was a mosh pit that got a little bit out of control in Knotfest Roadshow 2019. He basically says, back the F up. No one is getting effing hurt here by my effing watch while the band ceased to play music. Do you understand me? Back the F up now. Now give me a scream, motherfuckers.
Yeah, so that's again people just rushing the stage or just cramming, which I understand the point of it is, because if you're here, if you're 10 minutes closer, you're still not on the stage, so don't like rush people or cram in.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah,
And you don't enjoy yourself, this. Like, how do you enjoy that?
I was still happy he's managed to spec that many F words into that many sort of sentences. He's still a metalhead.
Yeah, but good on him as well from like watching the crowd and mothering it and making sure everybody was fine. He had to get some paramedics through at one stage. He had to make sure they got through. So it's good that he was doing his job as a frontman and make sure everybody was safe. And
it's good. He's fully aware of the crowd and stuff, which is really good. I remember seeing something like that with the guy from metal band.
Yeah, the Taz.
Yeah, that's right.
Devil Driver.
Devil Driver. Yeah, that same thing happened. One guy was doing karate kicks in the mosh pit, and those cool Street Fighter moves, and he actually stopped the song, pointed the guy out. Everyone just turned on this guy like he was working for the CIA or something, and trying to get the metal concert cancelled. But there you go. Good for him.
Yeah, so good. And don't do that, people.
No, don't work for the CIA.
Help each other.
All right, let's move on to a story here that is actually quite interesting to talk about. Metallica, known as the saviors of metal, or at least taking all the money off everyone to be considered it, now are in trouble. They've got a ticketing operation, and it's been considered a scam, and these problems are not going away, according to certain people in the US parliamentary system, Danny.
Yeah, so this congressman's found out. Apparently this has been around for a while. It started 12 years ago, he thinks. Could be longer, but he knows at least 12 years where...
That's right.
Also, Bruce Springsteen, the boss, not so much metal, but, he's a boss, so why not?
Yeah.
In fact, this is called the Boss Act, so there you go. That sounds pretty good, isn't it? Boss Act. Yeah.
Well, the guy we're talking about here is Congressman Bill Pascrell. Now, he's junior, although he looks quite aged. So at one point, I had to think we can just stare at the junior.
Yeah,
he's Bill Pascrell. He's outlived his father. There is no one.
There's no senior anymore.
There's no senior anymore. It's just him, right? Nevertheless, the testimony was before the House Committee of Energy and Commerce, and what happened was they revealed that 88,000 tickets have been directly fed to secondary ticketing hubs, which means that the people that should have them, those tickets, didn't get them, and obviously they bypass those sales, and they can hike up those prices to whatever number. So good on Metallica's management, good on the ticket companies, and bad for basically the fans, because they're paying a ridiculous price. Danny, that might actually make sense for some of the things that we've had to pay. Remember that time with Rainbow?
Rainbow, yeah.
The thing, so we went to see Rainbow in Birmingham. That was sold out in seconds, and then all these second or third between sites we had to go through were selling it for twice to three times the amount.
Within seconds.
Seconds.
Apparently they were quick enough to buy the tickets and then quickly upload them onto a secondary website all within the 30 seconds, which is quite impressive. I know the internet in Adelaide's slow and internet overseas is fast, but that seems a bit too quick. And especially when those secondary selling websites belong to Ticketmasters as well, you think that's a little bit too coincidental. And that's what's pretty much happening. What's happening here is they're not actually even selling the tickets through their normal channels. They're purposely holding back tickets and just putting them straight on their scalping websites and selling for twice, three times the price.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah, Will over here reckons that Live Nation admitted to the scheme last week. About a dozen artists between 2016 and 2017 could still be doing the same. This is wrong. And to top it all up, that's sad, but it is true. Even quoting Metallica's 1991 track, Sad But True, off of the self-titled, hence the Black Album, I think is what people like to call it. Danny, what is going to happen? I mean, are Metallica too big to fail? Is this going to fall on deaf ears? And everyone's going to be like, oh, they still release Monster of Puppets, leave them alone, put the bass back on, Justice for All album, what's going on?
Well, I don't know who's at fault. I mean, I'm not sure if Metallica's at fault or if it's their agency or if it's just
at the end of the day,
tickets.
the rules are not exactly there, or are they? If they are now, well, they'll get fined. But the agency, but at the end of the day, Metallica, they've hired these people to do it. So unless we see someone getting fired, then they're basically going to be compliant with it. This has made all mainstream music, so
yeah. I mean, who knows? I mean, Metallica might just be the name, but they could do it with any band, like all the touring hours and stuff. So, but the act is what the act wants to get done is that one, they tell you how many tickets are on sale, how many tickets have been allocated for what selling at what prices, so everything's really transparent, and then they can then say, okay, these tickets are sell, and they'll put them on a secondary website. The secondary website is for tickets which have sold and people want to sell on again, so that's anyway.
Don't do it. Be cool, buy the tickets, and if you can't go to it, sell the tickets for the same price you bought it. That's it. That's the whole courtesy.
I think in Australia we have a 10% rule. I think what happened, we had the Rugby World Cup here about 15 years ago, and that's what happened. Everybody bought the tickets and sold them at like twice, three times the value. Caused so much of an uproar that the Australian government's like, okay, we'll pass a law to say, I think the most you can put is 10% on a ticket, and that's due to like admin fees and you taking your time, and
so they can do with that.
Crap.
Moving on to another story here with ex-Suffocation members screaming at his own wedding. I don't think there's a better time to scream. I mean, you realize that there's hardly the amount of PlayStation that you want to play anymore. You're going to be more broke, and all that stuff in your lounge room is going to be moved into your back room, which will then be moved into the carousel.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so that is not to be screaming about. But we've got here Frank Mullen. He's performed Entrails of You at the wedding reception. Is this foreshadowing? Is this the As I Lay Dying starting to commence? Are we talking about this guy in 6 years? What do you think, Danny?
Yeah, you're right. It's not really the most romantic of songs, but again, he might have adapted the lyrics to represent or reflect their wedding day.
Yeah. Well, good news for us. We didn't get to watch it because we live in Australia, so it blocks in our country. So if any of you guys out there can tell us how this video went, that'd be super awesome. I was curious to see how his performance was in the wedding. Did he kind of freeze up? Did he get really into the character? Were there entrails at this wedding?
Was it a circle bit?
If it wasn't a true wedding. So yeah, let us know in the comments. And finishing off with Rammstein. Danny, they are the captains of controversy. They've had film clips of porn on porn sites because it was the guys having basically a porno. They shoot big foam penises with white spunking gel into the crowds. It's very risque. It's very crazy. But here they are again, breaking the laws in Russia.
Yeah.
Because in Russia, they have these things called, for the purpose of protecting children and from information advocating for a denial of traditional families act or something. So they decide the best way around this is just to make out in front of, like, basically into the first song, I think it was.
First song.
Yeah, I think they just went straight off the bat.
No teasing.
Yeah, let's go straight into it. No foreplay. Butter up the crowd like that. Danny, what a way to market, you know. It's just basically saying a big F you, and if, you know, being gay is fine, just, you know, hang out with your friends and make out with them if you wanted to. There's no problem with it.
Well, it worked out for them because they're not currently locked up in a Russian prison somehow. Yeah. So that's pretty impressive. So they've got some sort of political pull somehow.
Yeah,
so.
well, that's exactly, like, these guys are massive and they've got probably money. So if the government was going to find them, they could take them to court and rape them financially. So that'd be... This is the thing, you have to wait for these guys to do it, because if you feel like anyone else does it, you're right, they're going to be in jail. Like, Behemoth Negra was thrown in jail for something like this. The guys from Orion had to run away and go to Norway for playing heavy metal. So you feel like, unless Metallica or Rammstein are doing it, there's probably no chance of making this kind of statement without, you know, some sort of imprisonment.
Yeah. Because you need the mass of people behind you to support you.
You do.
It's not going to go to shit. You need all those people to say, nah, we won't accept that. We accept you keep killing off our, like, people who want to run against you, Putin.
Or else you walk into an embassy and then there'll be no videos of you walking out of it. You know what I mean?
The latest guy in Russia who's trying to go against Putin apparently got, like, while he's in police protection, got, like, some sort of poisoning and nearly died.
Oh, wow.
It keeps happening. It's amazing.
One of those poor odds, man. You know what I mean? Just imagine that heavy metal band gets thrown into custody, and for some reason, I mean, these 7-foot guys just end up missing. You know? We can't find them anywhere.
It's kind of like Spinal Tap and the drummers. They should do, like, a documentary on Russian opposition leaders.
Yeah. Well, there you go, guys. That's the end of our news stories. So this week, if you guys want us to cover any news stories, let us know in the comments. Until then, I am Super Male Brother Matt.
I'm Super Male Brother Dan.
We have been the Super Male Brothers. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you next week.